Hey bass anglers, if you're looking for a new method to catch fish skipping under docks, I've got one for you today. I'm going to share my secret tube setup that gets me a good fish in every tournament. Hey, one of my go-to setups for catching bass under docks in the summertime is fishing a 4-inch tube bait. A lot of people are throwing Senkos, a lot of people are skipping jigs, a lot of people are throwing other baits under docks. I like to use a Texas rig tube setup that I'll skip under a dock, and I have some nuances that I think will help catch you more fish. So I start out with a 4-inch tube bait, and I've got some tube baits from Flag Baits here. I'll leave the link in the description below for some custom baits, but you can use any tube bait you want, but I get a specialty one made. I'm using a super soft 4-inch double dipped tube that I have green pumpkin with a variegated orange tail. That's part of the double dipping. And then in the flake, I'll have copper and green flake. Now this is my crayfish imitating bait. Tube baits are deadly. This one's soft. I like the soft, salted, thicker tubes that are double dipped like this for flipping. They're a little more durable. The fish can clamp down on them and get the hook real easy and close the hook gap. So I'm using a 4-inch tube bait. Okay, here's my setup. I've got a 30-pound reaction tackle braid in a moss green color. I've got a bobber stop on the line up ahead of everything. And then I've got a 1/16 ounce reaction tackle tungsten weight on there. That's not much weight, but you don't need much weight when you're throwing a double dipped 4-inch tube. Then on the business end, I've got a Palomar knot tied on to my 3/0 EWG Superline hook. And so when I'm putting this together, I'll snug that all down with the bobber stop so that the weight can't go anywhere. So that's all you need on the business end. And then the way I hook this bait up is a little bit different than others might hook theirs up. Some standard way I've seen people do is they go in a little bit, right? They get in the thick part and they come around and they Texas rig it. And now at this point, once it's Texas rigged, or once it's rigged up here, people will pinch up and go center up the tube, and they'll go all the way through the tube like that, and then they'll Texpose it on the back side. This is one way to do it. I don't have a ton of success hooking fish up this way. There's almost too much gap in there for the fish to close up even with the soft tube. So I don't do that. What I do rather is I come in, see if I can show it to you this way, and I am going to skin hook this tube almost through the body of the tube so the hook isn't sticking out much, but I'm going to skin hook this thing on the outside of the tube in the front. And so when I do that, here I'll rig it up, you just pinch it up, you kind of line up the hook where it's going to be, and you get it under that soft plastic, and then I just Texpose that thing like that. So that hook is literally on the outside of that tube. And that gets me 30% better hookups than going all the way through that tube and Texposing it on the back side. So that's a little secret. Over the years, my hookup ratio has gotten much, much better by skin hooking that tube. And when I'm skipping this thing stays embedded. So it's always embedded in there, and that hook point doesn't come out. Now you've got to adjust it after you catch some fish. You catch a couple of fish with the tube, and you might need to change tubes because you've torn up the outside of that hook. Outside of that tube rather, skin hooking it like that. But that is deadly. And then the secret weapon that I've put into this bait is I've made my own tube rattles. You can get glass rattles anymore, but you can't get a cylindrical tube rattle anymore. And I've made my own. If you're interested, message me. I'm gonna this winter put a bunch of those together, and we'll see if we can't maybe get some available. But this plastic ball that I've got, I acquired the plastic ball, I put in a stainless steel BB, and I made my own plastic ball. And it's the perfect size to fit in the hollow body cavity of the tube. And when you shove that up there into all the way up to the head of that setup. So now I've got that deadly low pitched rattle sound. And that is absolutely deadly. The 1/16 ounce weight allows it to slow fall down in the middle underneath that cavity of the dock, so any suspenders I'm going to get. But then when it gets down on the bottom and they nose down on that bait, I give that rattle a couple of shakes and they absolutely murder this bait with a rattle in it. So that's something not a lot of people do, is put a rattle in their tube. It's a secret weapon of mine. I'm sharing it because I'd like to see some people catch some more fish with it. I get a tournament fish every tournament that there's a dock situation involved. I catch a good fish off of a dock with this rattle tube technique. And the 1/16 ounce tungsten weight is enough weight so that with the weight of this double dipped tube, I can skip this thing under the dock real easily, but then it doesn't sink too fast, because if you're looking for a fast sinking bait, skip a jig under there, you know, a 1/2 ounce jig, don't skip a tube under there. But if you're looking for a slow fall to maybe get those suspenders, and then if they're not suspended and they happen to just be on the bottom, as this thing slow falls down to the bottom and lands, and you literally let it sit in place and give it a couple of shakes, they're gonna murder it. So this is a great setup. Use this one, you'll be successful if you can use this. Glass rattles are okay, they'll work, but you know, you hit a dock post with them, you hit a pontoon with them, and that glass rattle can break. And be careful, because you don't want to cut yourself with it. I prefer the plastic. They used to make the round tube rattles. They don't make them anymore, so I've had to make my own. And if you're interested on how I made them, or maybe if I get some made up this winter, reach out to me if you're interested in maybe getting a hold of some. So this is deadly. This is a bass killer, and try it out. You'll be successful. On the business end, to make this system work maybe most efficiently and effectively, I've got a couple of things that I do. I'm using a Shimano Corrado DC reel with a wide spool to hang onto that 30-pound line, and to make my adjustments that I need to make to skip this tube under there as precise as possible. So I'm using a really good reel. I'm using the Signature Series, Jacob Wheeler's Signature Series medium 6-foot 10-inch medium powered rod. It's light, it's a little shorter, so making those casts around dock and under pontoon boats, I got a little bit shorter rod. It's medium heavy, super light. This rod is stupid light. The other thing I do like about his Signature Series rods is once I skin hook that tube and I'm ready to go to the next spot, I don't wreck my skin hook with his keeper system on here. You can take the hook and put it on his keeper system without any damage or any negatively affecting your skin hook setup. It just goes right onto his little keeper that he's got on there, and off you go to the next spot. So this is a deadly combo to be able to skip this system under docks, between pontoons, get into those tough to reach places. It's soft, so it's not clanking off pontoons and dock posts if you miss. So you can subtly, sneakily fish this thing along in dock setups and get some big bites. It's got a nice profile, it's thick. They like the feel of it with the soft and the salt and the rattle. They just absolutely murder. So this is one you're gonna have to try out. Hope you found these tips helpful. Please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time on the water.